Hey everybody, it's Steven. It's a rather lovely day outside, so I'm just gonna read chapter 2 of New Moon out here on my screen and porch. Yippee. Carlisle was the only one. Is that how you pronounce his name? Carlisle? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Carlisle was the only one who stayed calm. Well, that's kind of expected seeing he's a doctor.
Oh my god! She's bleeding!
Well, can't you heal her?
I don't know!
So now, all the other vampires get Jasper away from Bella because he's still going crazy, and Edward stays behind to check on Bella. Let's take her to the kitchen table, Carlisle said to Edward. Yeah, taken to a kitchen table by a couple of vampires. That's not suspicious at all. Come, Edward, let us take Bella to the kitchen table. Why, are you gonna heal her there? More or less. How are you doing, Bella? Carlisle asked. I'm fine. My voice was reasonably steady, which pleased me. Edward's face was like stone. Well, since you keep saying his skin's made of marble and his hair's made of bronze, it should come as no surprise to you, Bella. Now, at this point, Edward goes to check on Jasper because Carlisle told him to, and as he's removing the glass from Bella's wounds, as he's removing the glass, he starts talking about his faith for some reason, I'm not sure how it got into it, but he starts talking about his faith and how the other vampires don't exactly follow his views. Edward's with me up to a point. God and heaven exist, and so does hell. Now, I can back him up on this one because I've been to both places. You see, he thinks we've lost our souls. Well, I can kind of agree with him on that one because you're pretty much living on people's blood for all eternity. I don't see a lot of soul in that. I look at my son, italicized, son, his strength, his goodness, the brightness that shines out of him, and every other vampire when exposed to sunlight. And here's something really confusing. Carlisle says that Edward claims that the vampires have lost their souls, but then he tells Bella, but if I believed as he does, if you believed as he did, could you take away his soul? According to Edward, there is no soul to take. It makes no sense. And now Carlisle shifts the gears quite abruptly and starts talking about when Edward was a human and he was very sick and dying alongside his mother. Save him, she commanded me. I'll do everything in my power, I promised her. You must. You must do everything in your power, what others cannot do. It frightened me. She looked at me with those piercing eyes, and for one instant I felt certain that she knew my secret. And yet, she's asking you to help her dying son. Oh, Mr. Vampire, save my son. Turn him into a blood-sucking monster. His life will be much better that way. After all those years of indecision, I simply acted on a whim. I wheeled his mother to the morgue first, and then I came back for him. No one noticed that he was still breathing. There weren't enough hands, enough eyes to keep track of what half the patients needed. The morgue was empty. Of the living, at least. Gee, I wonder why. And now Edward comes back and says Jasper's really upset and blah blah blah. And now he and Bella are alone. And Bella's asking Edward for forgiveness, as if it's her fault that he threw her against a table. Well, I mean, if I had a girlfriend like Bella, I'd probably throw her against a glass table. Your fault. If you cut yourself at Mike Newton's house with Jessica there and Angela and your other normal friends, the worst that could possibly happen would have been what? Maybe they couldn't find you a bandage? How the hell did Mike Newton end up in this conversation? Mike Newton ended up in this conversation because Mike Newton would be a hell of a lot healthier for you to be with. I think Edward's starting to say he's no good for her. Foreshadowing, perhaps? So now, Bella and Edward go back to her house, and he gives her the present that she was originally going to open before she cut herself, and as it turns out, it was a CD full of his own compositions, including the lullaby that was played in the first book. And now Bella gets all emotional, crap, and they decide to kiss, and then Edward stops himself and is like, oh, sorry, that was completely out of line. No, I want you to kiss me again. You're overestimating my self-control. Which is tempting you more, my blood or my body? Okay, if this is not a messed up relationship, I don't know what is. I mean, one person wants to commit necrophilia, the other's about to commit pedophilia. If this book didn't suck so much, I wouldn't be hitting myself. God, this book.